Michelle, tell us, how did you learn to leverage the stories for change? And in turn, how can anyone in general leverage stories to institute good change and to build a community and to use it for the intended positive change?
Through my whole education, I kept looking into understanding what the power was in story, and also like, why does it work? Because I really wanted to know how all of this stuff worked. And then I went on and I got a PhD and studied how storytelling can be a trauma-aware response to change. And what I discovered through all of that was that our cultures and our communities are really built on story. And people, you can read a lot of things out there on storytelling, and people make it into a what, like storytelling's a thing, but it's not really a thing. It's really the way our brains work and the way we do the things we want to do. And it became very, 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 very clear to me that every skill you need to do the things you need to do in community, you do through story, right? More than like Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, that you need both. And that what stories do is allow people to act on the data that they take in. What it does for us is a bunch of things. It helps us to both care and pay attention, which is really necessary for creating any kind of pro-social behavior. And by that, we mean anything good for you and good for the world and good for the people on the other end. So it helps you create this pro-social behavior because you're able to like focus in on somebody, because the feeling part of your brain gets engaged. And that feeling part of your brain both makes you care, but it also helps to convert all the data that you're taking in into your long-term memory. So you'll remember dates and numbers and things that people have said if they fall into the context of a story for you. So that's part of it, right? That you feel something. Also, attention is a really, really scarce commodity these days. We all know that, right? I mean, you're a podcaster, so you know how hard it is to get people's attention. The cortisol that gets activated in your brain when a story is told causes people to immediately like whoosh, focus in on something. And they pay attention to it for as long as that cortisol makes them think it's emotionally meaningful to them. So that means you're actually holding people's attention. So this is used in really bad ways, right? It's used when we use fear to sell things, or when we use fear to manipulate people, or scarcity. Those are ways in which people use that response. And I don't think it's that ethical, right? But you can use it in a really good way. If you are providing something to people that they actually can need and use, and their attention's being spent, like on this podcast, on something really good, where they're going to learn something and come out better on the other end, now you've got a really good use of that cortisol function, right? And the other thing I'll say about story, and this may lead you into an interesting question, is in order to get those two things, there has to be trouble in any story. So what they call it in literary theory or narratology is rising action. Things have to get harder. And we all know this from our work lives, right? That the things that you can do really easily or smoothly generally are not the biggest part of your job, right? I mean, even, just the simplest things become somewhat difficult because other people are involved. And that level of things get more and more difficult as the hero or the group of people try to solve the problem. That's what gets our attention. So this is my request of you. Don't brag. Don't make things sound easy, because number one, nobody wants to hear it. And number two, it doesn't do you any good as a storyteller. And so the authenticity of like, I tried this and it didn't work. And then I learned this thing. And then I tried this other thing and it didn't work. But then finally I put it all together. That gets people's attention.